Greetings, everyone. This is Valentine's Day 2021. Greetings to you from me on a Sunday afternoon in snowy Maine. And I just wanted to add a few thoughts. This is the ultimate supplemental reading. You can hit delete. But I wanted to add a few thoughts that might help contextualize where our consumer protection laws came from. If you bear with me for 4 or 5 minutes, maybe it'll help. These laws were passed in the 1960s and early 1970s, and Butler and Wright article, which we asked you to read, accurately describes the context and the historical and the legal framework. But what it doesn't discuss is the economic world in which it existed. So try to imagine a world where the internet doesn't exist. No cell phones, no texting, no ability to quickly grasp information that is normal for all of us now to access. We have a world here where there weren't even credit cards very much, where people bought things with cash or with personal checks from a merchant who most likely lived in their town. All pharmacies were locally owned. Grocery stores where food came in cans, it weren't much fresh food, was locally owned. Your bank was locally owned. Your physician, your doctor, was someone who was an independent practitioner, wasn't working for a group. And I'm not describing some sort of happy place necessarily. Okay, all of these decisions were made by men. Women did not do ownership. We're not making these sorts of economic decisions in overwhelming numbers. Likewise. So the opportunity for fraud was pretty high. The education levels were not high. In 1970, only 10% of women and 15% of men in the United States had college degrees. Today, both categories are pushing 40%. So it was a different kind of sense of time and place, and within which there wasn't a lot of interstate economic activity that you felt if you were a consumer. You bought things from people you either knew or people you could go back to, whether it was your appliance and the biggest purchase you made, of course, was the car. Your home mortgage was pretty well regulated, but the car, kind of the Wild West. And so automobiles didn't last very long. In the 1970s, if a car got to 100,000 miles, you were lucky. And as a matter of fact, the odometers didn't even register that you could do that. When you hit 100,000 miles, your odometer rolled over to zero. So if it hadn't been already rolled back by an unscrupulous car dealer. So you didn't have much information. You made these purchases, and you were vulnerable to fraudsters who were overwhelmingly in your own state. The fraudsters were somebody you probably knew too. And so the decision makers, again, almost all men, decided that they had to do something about that. And these consumer protection statutes that we're reading and studying were consensus documents. They were bipartisan. Local chambers of commerce and business people supported them. This was a way to protect themselves from the unscrupulous person in their community. And they gave this extraordinary power to attorneys general. One by one, and actually there was federal money provided to the Attorney General to hire people in the 70s and into the early 80s to actually enforce these consumer protection statutes that gave great leverage to the state. And today we're with a totally different concept. And of course, the vast majority of cases today are national or international in nature. But then, even with the Attorney General had the authority, the idea of doing something across state lines was a big deal. First of all, you had a hard time even drafting a brief. How are we going to do it with other states? In New England, assistant AGs from each of the New England states would drive to Boston, draft the state collectively, draft the brief collectively, and then someone in the Massachusetts AG's office would type it up. I mean, that was the level in which that we could do it. So consumers did not have sufficient information. The article points that out. The fraudsters tended to be local, not big international corporations, but yet the statutes themselves continue and have a huge economic impact, and that we'll be studying in the next couple of weeks. And this was just for background. Happy Valentine's Day.